Hey friend, in today's watercolor tutorial, I'm going to be teaching how to paint this galaxy landscape of delicate arch in Arches National Park, Utah. Without further ado, let's get painting. For today's tutorial, I'm using Permanent Rose, Aqua Green, Veridian Green, Payne's Gray, and Black. I've got some white Winsor Newton gouache for our stars, and the brushes I'm using are size 6, 4, and 16 round brush by Princeton brand. And the paper I've taped down here is a size 5 by 7 inches. To get started, I'm going to use our lightest color to be kind of our sketch color. And I would like to sketch out the silhouette of delicate arch. To start here, I'm just going to do kind of a subtle slant U shape, just a little bit off-centered, almost looks like a little smiley face. And then from here, I'm going to do kind of a rounded reverse C curve. And then opposite that, I'm going to do another C curve. It's a very open C curve. And then from here, I'm going to do kind of a dash line that goes off towards the left. Then from there, I'm going to do kind of an elongated rainbow curve. And then another one on the other side that slightly starts to widen up towards the top. Then from here, I'm going to do a dash line. And then I'm just going to do a really loose, straight, horizontal line. And then another vertical dash line. From here, I just want to do another little horizontal dash. And then I'm going to do another little vertical line coming off of that dash. And then a little bit of a rainbow curve, panning downward. And then another little curve, kind of a C curve shape. And then another kind of longer curve. And then it just connects down towards that initial sketch. Then coming towards the right, I'm going to do another really loose rainbow curve like so. And then a tinier one with a little divot. And then this right side of the arch is going to be quite wide and compared to the left side. So here I'm just widening a couple soft curves and then doing a little bit of a divot. Just like so. And then a dash line going towards the right. So here's kind of our loose sketch of delicate arch. From here, I would like to take some Veridian Green and sketch a couple mountains in the background. So here I'm just doing a curved line that's going upward, swooping it back down and back up, and then back down again. And then I'm just going to do a second mountain. Just kind of popping through there. And then last but not least, just a third one kind of tucked in here. So I'm leaving a little bit of a gap for the sky to pop through this keyhole of the arch. Before we move on to filling up our galaxy, I'm just going to start with our first layer of our mountain. And I'm going to use a blend of Payne's Gray with just a touch of black. And I'm simply just going to color in this mountain area with this color blend. just being sure to paint around the silhouette of delicate arch here. So I'm really trying to be mindful of that. And I'm using my size 6 brush. It's just a good medium sized brush. And I'll go ahead and just fill in this area. So while this first layer dries, I am going to switch gears to my larger size 16 round brush, and I want to start our galaxy. So to get started on that, I want to do a wash of water, being mindful to not paint over the arch. And if it's easier, another trick would be to use some masking fluid just along the border, the inside border and the outside border of the arch, to not paint over the sketch, but I honestly find either way is totally fine. So I'm just taking my time here, going along all the edges and the sky, going back and forth with the water. And then I'm also going to add some water in this little keyhole here. And we can always add a little bit more water as we go. Okay, so to start, I want to do just a subtle amount of permanent rose in our galaxy. This is a very potent color, so I like how I say just a subtle amount, and then it's like bam. But that's okay, because all the water and all the blending of the other colors we'll add will definitely kind of buff out this color. But I just want like a soft hue of this permanent rose, and I'm just using my brush to kind of gently blend and incorporate this color. Okay, next up, I want to add some Veridian Green. That's our lighter color of the blues or the green cooler tones. And I'm just gonna add some Veridian Green, kind of going in the direction of the right corner of the page slightly. We're slowly building our Milky Way here. And it looks like we may already need a little bit more water, believe it or not. I'm filming this in the summertime, so depending on the season you're painting this, this may dry a little bit faster. So I'm gonna just incorporate a little bit more Veridian Green. And I'm doing this kind of tapping motion with my brush to get this kind of loose Milky Way quality. I'm incorporating a touch of the Veridian Green over the rose color. Okay. And next, I want to add just a touch of our Aqua Green. And I want to apply that in this left corner area. And towards the right of the highlight of where our Milky Way is going to be popping, kind of in this region. And then I'm going to incorporate a touch of this Aqua Green in this keyhole here, slightly overlapping, and a little bit in this little corner here. And then I'm just going to buff this out with the belly of my brush to blend and overlap some of that permanent rose. And I want to add just a touch more permanent rose to overlap a little bit. It's going to give a really beautiful kind of purple hue. And at this point, I want to switch gears to my size 6 brush. And I'm just going to softly incorporate this blend of colors using a wet size 6 brush. So now we're getting this beautiful kind of violet pink color combination. From here, I'm going to take Aqua Green and just tap some Aqua Green in the center of our highlight in kind of a wavy motion. All the way up to the right corner. Then from here, I want to take some Payne's Gray and add that in the left corner, overlapping on some of the Aqua Green. And then I'm going to take a touch of the Payne's Gray and just incorporate it in this highlight a little bit. Whenever you get a separation like this, you just want to buff it out with some water to help smooth out that blend. And from here, I'm going to add some more Payne's Gray to the right. And a little bit in the keyhole as well. And just a touch in this lower right area. From here, I want to incorporate just a touch more of our Payne's Gray inside of our Milky Way. This is just going to add more of a pop and contrast. And then just inside this kind of white area, I want to incorporate just a pop more of some Veridian Green. And then just a touch more Payne's Gray. You can tell when your Payne's Gray lifts and dries that you may need a little bit more. And I'm just going to take a damp brush just to smooth out any watermarks or blooms that I don't want. From here, I just want to take a touch of black and overlap a little bit of black on top of a few parts of the Payne's Gray. You can see how that just makes the contrast of the light and dark areas really pop. So I did some in this left corner and a little bit in this right area. I'm gonna add just a touch more of Aqua Green right in here. And then just buff it out with a clean, damp brush. Just using water as my transition. Okay. I am just going to let the sky dry, and when we come back, we will add another layer to our mountains and get started on our delicate arch. I am just going to take some plain Payne's Gray to fill in this mountain layer here. And I'm just being mindful of the border of the galaxy and of the border of the previous mountain and the edges of the arch. While this area dries, I want to take my size 16 brush and just do a simple wash of pink water. Apparently, still have my permanent rose there on my brush, but I'm just going to do a wash of water and kind of fill this area in. And I'm going to start with taking some Payne's Gray, and I'm just going to do a simple wash of Payne's Gray. And I just want this to be a nice base coat here before we add any black details to kind of show some rock crevices. While these areas dry, I want to add some little white stars into our galaxy using some white gouache and the tip of my size 4 brush. A size 2 brush will also work just as well. And I'm just going to use really light pressure and just the tip of my brush to scatter some dots in the sky using the white gouache. Every now and then I'm kind of reloading with some more of the white gouache. And I'm making sure to have some dots that are dainty and delicate and a few that pop that are a little bit more bold and slightly larger. And I'm making sure that the stars are irregularly placed, so they're not like perfect polka dot patterns. In order to do the shooting star, I simply just do a crooked dash line using really light pressure in the tip of my brush to get a nice little shooting star in one of the darker parts of the sky. Alrighty, our mountain layer here is just about dry, so I'm now going to do a coat of Payne's gray to fill in our arch. And I'm not doing a super dark saturation of Payne's gray. I'm also buffing out the waterline of the previous Payne's gray wash we did on the desert floor. But this layer of Payne's gray is just like a nice mid-tone value of Payne's gray, because we are going to incorporate a little bit of black as well to just show some of the crevices in the delicate arch rock. And so I'm just taking my time going alongside these edges to fill this whole area in. Now that I've filled in this area with the Payne's gray, I'm now going to take some black and mix it with some more Payne's gray And I just want to start my shading, and I'm going to begin with the left side of the arch. And I'm just incorporating this bold color alongside the left edge. And then from here, I'm going to take a damp size 6 brush with some water and smooth out that shading just a little bit. While it's still wet, I'm going to add just a bit more of this black Payne's gray color. And then from here, I'm taking water again and just smoothing out this water line. Okay, so next I want to take some more of that shaded color and add it into the kind of crease here on the left side of the right arch, allowing it to kind of bleed out a little bit. And then again, I'm going to take some water and buff out that water line. And then I'm just adding some more water so that way I don't have any harsh water blooms forming. All right, and then I'm gonna just do another amount of this Payne's Gray Black blend towards the left inside of this arch. I'm just being mindful of any kind of unusual water lines forming and just buffing them out. All right, and then from here, I want to add some highlights. And how I'm going to do that is I'm going to take a clean brush. I'm going to use my size 4 brush, just rinse it off of any pigment and just wipe it on a paper towel. And I'm going to add some pressure with my brush and lift some of the paint. So I'm starting with this right edge just to have a nice, beautiful highlight. Then here, I'm going to do the same thing in a horizontal line up towards the top. And then I'll do a couple more dashes just down below that, just to give the rock a little bit of irregular highlighting and texture. Then I'm going to go a little bit on the inside here and lift some of the pigment for a nice highlight. And then going in kind of a horizontal motion, I'm going to do a few just horizontal highlights in here. Just dabbing my brush and rinsing it off when I need to clean it to lift more pigment. I'm just retouching certain areas that I want to kind of get more highlight action going in. Okay. Next, I want to take some black and just fill in this lower area just with a few more touches of black. I'm just doing this kind of swooping curved line, kind of layering it in this area here. Then from here, I want to take some Payne's Gray just to add a little bit of loose texture. So I'm just going to start by doing a few kind of angled horizontal lines just to make this area pop with a little bit more bolder texture. Here I'm just taking my brush and just adding a few just curved kind of brush strokes. Here I'm going to do just a few crevices, so I'm just taking my brush and doing a left to right motion. And then I'm just going to softly kind of shade in this left side along this inner edge. I'm just adding a fine, small amount of the Payne's Gray and then buffing it out with a little bit of water. And if needed, I can relift some of the paint to add back in some highlights. Here I'm just going to lift a little bit more paint. And then just add some black in this shaded area again, just adding to the contrast of the highlights. And then I just want to buff out this highlight just a little bit. I'm going to add a little bit of a crease towards the top, so just a curved horizontal line. At this point, I'm just kind of dabbling and taking a step back to look at any areas that I think need a little bit more shading. Okay, I am just going to mix up a little bit of Aqua Green with just a hair bit of Payne's Gray just to tone it down a little bit. And I'm gonna go ahead and paint this next layer with this slightly brighter blue. Taking a step back, I feel like this second mountain layer needs to be just one shade darker, just to have like a darker, mid-tone, and lighter. So I'm just gonna add another wash of a little bit of Payne's Gray in this second layer, and then we will go from there. Last but not least, I'm just going to take a little bit more of Payne's Gray and just add a little bit of texture in between these two arches here, just doing kind of a left to right curved motion, just so that way there's a little bit more detail to the watered down rock area here. And then I'll add just a few more touches of some brush strokes here towards the right. Thank you for joining me for today's tutorial. I hope that you enjoyed this one. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel so you don't miss any further landscape tutorials.